Hey everybody, and welcome back to Wandervie Outdoors. If you own a boat, you know how expensive maintenance can be. So here's a dead broke outdoor episode on how to change over your water pump. Got a 97 Mercury Mariner 60 mounted on our pontoon, and it's overheating because it's not throwing enough water through the engine. So let's get at it. Got two bolts here, got the bolts up underneath the anode, and two bolts over here. This is not super hard as long as everything is not completely corroded. These all appear to be 5/8. Now what you do on this trim tab anode, mark where it lines up, either with a marker or make just a small marker, a scratch, so you know where to line it back up at. And then start removing bolts. Now when you pull this anode tab off, inspect it. Make sure it's not completely corroded out. If it's completely corroded up and the fin's all missing and it's corroded away, replace this. Do not touch any of that. Now once you remove that anode, there's a nut up inside that you got to pull off. Now 4 bolts around the base. Unless you have a really short socket set, you're probably going to need a wrench rather than a socket. The 2 towards the front you can hit with a socket pretty easy, but these back 2, the gear case is in the way. Just work everything down out. Okay, there's that. And then okay. And with a couple taps, out she comes. Whoops, we need that. Watch that you don't lose anything when you bring this down out. Inspect up in here. Make sure everything looks okay. Nothing's overly corroded. No big chunks of any nasty. And I pull this down out. A little bit of junk right here, but we can wipe that right off. Before we take this water pump out, I'm going to clean off any of this nasty crud around here so that that's not in the mix. And I have no idea whether this is the original water pump, whether it was replaced at some point. This does not look too bad, thankfully. Okay, trying to make an improvised sunshade here for the GoPro because it is just getting blasted with heat. The only bad thing about the GoPros is they like to overheat. Lose that. Whoops. Don't lose that. Once you get it wiped off as best as you can, 4 bolts on the water pump. And just remove them. So 4 bolts removed. As soon as those 4 bolts are out, water pump housing should slide right up out. There is a key that will drop out when you start to slide this housing up out. Do not lose this key. You need it.
I need it. I need that key. Yeah, I need that.
Now you'll notice down in here, the reason I was having cooling problems is you can see these fins are completely worn. It was not making contact, which happens over time. These are just made of rubber. When you get a brand new one, a nice new brand new one, they look all nice and stretched out, and it just makes contact and turns up inside there. So, I'm going to wipe this shaft off. And inspect the inside of this. No major wear marks, but we do have some dirt and crud. We want to get that out of there. We don't want dirt and crud down in here to tear up these brand new fins. Wipe that out real good. Wipe off this gasket material down here. That's not in too bad a shape, so we'll just wipe that off real good. Nice and clean. I'm going to take the new impeller, slide it right down over the shaft. Find the flat spot on your shaft where your key goes. I'm going to insert the key there. Whoops. Make sure there's no grit. You don't want any grit. Okay. So we insert the key. We turn that to match up with the slot on the impeller. Boom. Slide it right down. Now, wipe off your water pump housing cover. I'm going to slide that right down on, and then we're going to turn clockwise until it matches up. And then reinsert the 4 bolts. By the way, on this motor, these water pump housing bolts are 10mm. So if your 10mm is MIA, make sure you get one before you start this. And just tighten them down. We're going to get them basically finger tight and then torque them. Now I'm sure there is a torque spec for these. I don't use a torque spec on pretty much anything other than head bolts. So get them down nice and snug and don't bust them off. Busting them off is bad. That's why they put a torque spec on them. Okay, we're going to try to get this back on before the camera overheats again. Everything's torqued back down. Make sure that bushing and gear are up on there. And now it's just sliding it back up together. There we go. Make sure that it lines up. Get this top one up and through. As you're looking up in there when you're doing this, make sure that that gear lines up correctly. Make sure that the water pump outlet lines up correctly. Okay. It's just wiggling. Get it all lined up. There we go. Boom. Everything's lined up. Push it up on. Get one bolt up in and started so we don't lose anything. Just to hold it all together. And then put the other bolts in. Two of them you've got to hand tighten. Hit with a wrench. Two you can hit with a ratchet real easy. Or if you've got ratcheting box ends, that would be the way to do this. I don't have a set with me. Washer and nut up in here. Washer, nut. Whoops, give a deep well. And just draw it all back together. Torque it down good. Now, put the anode back on, get it started. There we go. We'll get it down and then match the markup that we made earlier before we tighten it. And then just tap it to wherever you need it. Gentle. And torque it down. That's all I've got for you. That's all we're doing today. We can't even take it out because a bird built a nest up on the pontoon. So, yeah. Little baby robins. We're gonna give them babies till next week to feather out and get out of here, and then we're gonna take it out in the water. Meanwhile, I've got a prop coming in for this. We'll get that changed over. If you want to see it, let me know. Make sure you like this video, subscribe for all our outdoor adventures. We're gonna be out in the boat real soon, so stay tuned for that. We'll see you on the next one.